Have you ever wondered why World War I happened? The Great War, as it is often referred to, was a global conflict that originated in Europe and spanned from 1914 to 1918. There are several interconnected factors that contributed to the outbreak of this war. Firstly, we must consider the alliance systems. European nations formed intricate alliances in the years leading to the war. The two primary alliances were the Triple Entente, which comprised France, Russia, and the United Kingdom, and the Triple Alliance made up of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. These alliances, rather than promoting peace, created a domino effect, where conflicts between individual nations could and did draw in multiple countries. Next, we have imperialism. There was fierce competition among European powers for colonial territories and resources worldwide. This rivalry led to increased tensions and conflicts, particularly in places such as Africa and the Balkans. Nationalism, another crucial factor, was rampant in many European countries, leading to a fervent desire for independence and national unity. This fervor contributed to a sense of superiority and heightened tensions between nations. Lastly, the immediate trigger for the war was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife Sophie in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, by a Bosnian Serb nationalist. This event sparked a series of diplomatic conflicts and military mobilizations, setting the stage for war. Now, when we consider how the war ended, we come across the Armistice and the Treaty of Versailles. The war officially ended on November 11, 1918, with the signing of an armistice between the Allies and Germany. This agreement signaled the cessation of hostilities on the Western Front. The peace process began with the Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, which officially ended the state of war between Germany and the Allied powers. This treaty imposed heavy penalties on Germany, contributing to future geopolitical tensions. So, it was a complex mix of factors that ultimately led to the outbreak of World War I. Now that we understand why the war started, how did it progress? The progression of World War I was a series of cataclysmic events, shifting alliances, and dramatic turning points. After the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in June 1914, the war officially began a month later when Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. The intricate web of alliances quickly drew other European powers into the conflict. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia and France, while Britain declared war on Germany, marking the beginning of the global spread of the war. The early years of the war saw a series of rapid movements. Germany, implementing the Schlieffen Plan, attempted to swiftly knock out France before turning full force on Russia. However, the plan faltered at the Battle of the Marne, and both sides dug in, marking the start of trench warfare on the Western Front. This war of attrition was characterized by immense casualties, with neither side gaining a significant advantage. On the Eastern Front, the war was more fluid, with the Central Powers gradually pushing back Russian forces. However, the entrance of the Ottoman Empire into the war opened up new fronts in the Middle East and the Balkans. The war took a significant turn in April 1917 when the United States entered the conflict. Initially neutral, the United States was drawn into the war due to unrestricted German submarine warfare, which included the sinking of American merchant ships. The entry of the United States provided a much-needed boost to the Allies, both in terms of manpower and resources. Major battles during this period included the Battle of Verdun, the Battle of the Somme, and the Battle of Passchendaele, all marked by massive casualties and minimal territorial gains. These battles highlighted the brutal nature of the war and the stalemate situation on the Western Front. Despite the massive scale and brutal violence, there was no clear winner emerging as the war dragged on. The war had become a grinding, relentless slog with both sides entrenched in their positions, neither able to deliver a knockout blow. So, how did this devastating war finally come to an end? The answer lies in a series of diplomatic agreements and strategic decisions that led to the cessation of hostilities. Let's start with the armistice. On the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918, the guns on the Western Front fell silent. This came after the signing of the armistice, or temporary cessation of hostilities, between the Allies and Germany. This marked the end of the fighting, but it was not yet the formal end of the war. The armistice imposed several conditions on Germany, including the withdrawal of German troops from all occupied territories, the surrender of a significant portion of its military hardware, and the promise of reparations. But the war didn't officially end until the signing of the Treaty of Versailles the following year, on June 28, 1919. This treaty officially ended the state of war between Germany and the Allied powers. It was a complex and controversial document, with terms that were seen by many, especially in Germany, as exceedingly harsh. The treaty stripped Germany of significant territories, imposed crippling reparations, and held it solely responsible for the war. This clause, known as the War Guilt Clause, was particularly contentious. It led to a great deal of resentment in Germany and contributed to the economic, political, and social instability that would eventually lead to the Second World War. In conclusion, the end of World War I was marked by the armistice and the Treaty of Versailles. These agreements brought an end to the fighting, but they also sowed the seeds of future conflicts. The armistice and the Treaty of Versailles marked the end of World War I, but the peace they brought was fragile and fraught with future conflicts. What were the consequences of World War I, and how did it shape our world today? World War I left an indelible mark on the global landscape, with immediate and long-term effects that echo through history. The war claimed an estimated 9 million combatant lives, while countless others were wounded or permanently scarred by the horrors they witnessed. This immense loss of life was accompanied by massive economic upheaval. Countries dedicated entire economies to the war effort, leading to significant inflation and debt. For instance, Britain's national debt increased almost tenfold, while France's and Germany's doubled. The war also led to widespread social change. Women who had taken up roles in factories and fields in the absence of men began to demand more rights and freedoms, initiating a surge in the women's suffrage movement. Furthermore, the Treaty of Versailles, which officially ended the state of war, imposed harsh conditions on Germany. These punitive measures, including significant territorial losses, demilitarization, and hefty reparations, led to economic hardships and a sense of national humiliation. This resentment would later provide fertile ground for the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, setting the stage for World War II. The political landscape of Europe and the world was also dramatically reshaped. The Russian Revolution of 1917, partially triggered by the strains of war, led to the establishment of the world's first communist state. The Austro-Hungarian, Russian, and Ottoman empires collapsed, leading to the birth of numerous new nations in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. This redrawing of borders and the emergence of new states often led to new conflicts, some of which persist even today. World War I also saw the birth of modern warfare technology. The advent of tanks, machine guns, chemical weapons, and aircraft forever changed the face of war, setting a precedent for conflicts to come. Thus, the legacy of World War I is far-reaching, impacting our world in ways that are still felt today. So, to summarize, why did World War I happen and how did it end? Let's boil it down. The Great War, as it was known, was a result of a complex interplay of factors, including intricate alliance systems, imperialistic ambitions, and bubbling nationalism. The spark that set this volatile mixture ablaze was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary by a Bosnian Serb nationalist. The war was not a mere squabble among European powerhouses, it was a global conflict that saw nations worldwide drawn into the fray. Its progress was marked by violence and loss on an unprecedented scale, as well as significant advancements in technology and warfare tactics. The end of World War I was as complex as its beginning. An armistice signed on November 11, 1918, halted the hostilities on the Western Front, but it was the Treaty of Versailles, signed the following year, that officially ended the state of war between Germany and the Allied powers. This treaty, however, was far from a perfect solution. Its harsh conditions and penalties imposed on Germany sowed the seeds of resentment and economic hardship, setting the stage for future conflicts. The legacy of World War I is profound and far-reaching. It reshaped the political map of Europe and the world. It marked the end of empires and the birth of new nations. It brought about significant social and cultural changes and left an indelible mark on the collective memory of humanity. Understanding World War I helps us to comprehend the complexities of history and the profound effects that such a global conflict can have on our world. As we look back on the events of the past, we gain insight into the present and guidance for the future. The lessons of history are there for us to learn, lest we repeat the mistakes of the past. So let's continue to explore, to question, and most importantly, to remember. For in doing so, we honor the memory of those who lived through these turbulent times and ensure their experiences continue to enlighten us. Understanding World War I helps us to comprehend the complexities of history and the profound effects that such a global conflict can have on our world.